Hey Springfield, this is Daryl Moss. Everybody calls me D. Today I'll be interviewing Ward 4 City Council candidate Kareem Kibodya. And I'll also be speaking a little bit on the importance of voting and voter education. In our ever evolving society, voting stands as the cornerstone of our democratic system. It provides us with a voice in the decisions that shape our community. The choices we make at the ballot box resonate deeply within our neighborhoods, affecting our daily lives, our opportunities, and our aspirations. However, the impact of our vote extends far beyond our individual choices. It collectively shapes the future of our community. Educating voters plays a significant role in ensuring that each voter is equipped with the knowledge and understanding needed to make informed decisions. Conversations we will be having with candidates provide us with an understanding of their platforms, their values, their commitments. It empowers us to select representatives who truly align with our vision for the future of our families and our community. An informed voting community is an engaged constituency, one that is conscious of the issues at hand and actively shapes the future by selecting leaders who reflect their community's aspirations. In this interview, we'll delve not only into the candidate's background and aspirations, but also the significance of their vision and a plan for a changing Springfield. With each and every conversation, we'll embark on a journey of shared understanding, responsibility, and empowerment in a way that strengthens the very fabric of our community. And it's critical. I believe that electing a politician is as critical as hiring a lawyer to represent you in court. Have you ever stopped to think about the parallel between politicians and attorneys? Both demand expertise, advocacy, and trust. Just as an attorney represents us legally, politicians represent us in governance. Both roles involve negotiation, compromise, and accountability. Attorneys need excellent communication skills to present arguments persuasively. Similarly, politicians must effectively communicate not only his or her own ideas, but also the ideas of the folks who vote for them. That is how we drive social, political, and economic change. You're voting to put your future, as well as the future of your friends and family, in the hands of a candidate. What we have to do is break the cycle of blind voting. If you wouldn't hire an inept and incompetent attorney to represent your loved one in court, why would you vote for an incompetent politician to represent you in city government, on the state level, federally? I mean, think about it. Do your homework. Share the information that you find, and then go vote. With that being said, I'm telling folks, please, voting is critical. It's not the end all to be all. Following up and making sure that you hold the folks that you vote for accountable is just as important, if not more so, than voting itself. So with that being said, I have a guest on the show with me today. His name is Kareem Kibodya. He's an individual who's vying for the Ward 4 seat with the Springfield City Council. Born and raised in Springfield, has a strong educational background from the Springfield Public Schools to Carnegie Mellon University. Kareem has served as an intern with Dominic Saunders' administration. He's been an organizer for Senator Elizabeth Warren, and he served as a legislative aide for Congressman Richard Neal. He's a former member of the board of directors for the Association of Black Business and Professionals. He's played a significant role with the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts here in Western Mass. And our goal today is to have a conversation with Kareem and find out what Kareem brings to the table. So with that being said, Kareem.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you for having me today. Just to start off, I really want to make sure I'm emphasizing that point you made about the importance of representation. A lot of people that I've talked to, both on the doors and even prior to this, don't feel that they even know what their city council does or even know what their government does at any level and how they can best represent them. A lot of people are frustrated right now with how things are looking, both at the city level and around our country. But at the same time, a lot of people feel like their vote doesn't actually count. In a ward where the last election was only won by 93 votes, that seems pretty influential to me in a ward of 12,000 people. At the same time, for me coming into this role, it's part of a promise that I made myself a long time ago. I come from a family of immigrants who first moved from Tanzania into the city to start a better life, to create a family, and to build something special. I At Carnegie Mellon, I started off on that track that all immigrant parents want our kids to start off on as either a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor. As a pre-med track, coming from a family of healthcare workers, it really dawned on me during that time, just from my experiences, both seeing my mother working in the hospital, as well as during my educational experiences, how it just really was frustrating, just time and time again, knowing that people were going to their doctors, going to their appointments, and sitting in a hospital bed, not worried about getting better or healing, but worried about going bankrupt, worried about not being able to afford to pay their bills. And for me, I started looking for ways that I could make a difference with that. Treating one patient at a time is crucial work, but I felt that I could do more, and I had more to give. I come from a city that like I didn't feel that there was a place for me in politics at first. I didn't feel like people that looked like me or that were from where I'm from could really find success in local or any kind of government. It wasn't really until a speaker series at my school where we had a former ambassador under the George W. Bush administration coming to speak to our school about local, state, national, and international issues and policy. At a certain point during the conversation, he brings up Springfield. Now, obviously, being in Pittsburgh, my ears perk up, and I'm really glad they did because what he said next, it will never leave me for as long as I live. He referred to Springfield as the heroin hub of the Northeast,
As the
not the
what?
city of the heroin hub of the Northeast, not the city of homes, not the city of first, birthplace of basketball, the heroin hub of the Northeast. Now, I don't know about you, D, but when people talk about where I'm from or my family or anything like that, I take that personally.
Absolutely.
And it was at that point that I really made a commitment to come back home and work towards a betterment of my city. As I had said, I don't come from a political family, so that wasn't the easiest of tasks. I had to work my way from the ground up, meeting people where they're at and working to make sure that I established myself as somebody that both understood the issues that were going on, but was willing to admit when they don't know something, and at the same time, always committed towards working to create a better tomorrow. Working in City Hall, I think that was one of the most pivotal jobs I can say that I've had up until this day. Working with you, working with Denise, I learned so much. I learned not only where we're at right now, but what got us here historically. And having those conversations about what we could do going forward really influenced a lot of the decisions that I've made up until now. Working both with State Rep Gonzalez at the state level, as well as working the federal level, both with Senator Warren and Congressman Neal. I'm the only candidate in this race that has experience at all three levels of government. And for me, the importance of that is being able to bring that back home, right here, right into our own backyards.
Okay, that's what's up. Good stuff. And I got to throw this out there. Kareem is one of my former interns when I worked with Mayor Sarno. And Marlo Brown, who he is challenging, is a good friend. So I'm the guy in the middle, just so folks understand. Here we go. First question for you. How do we make Springfield / Ward 4, the greater Mason Square community, a place people and families want to move to?
Yeah, well, just to go back to your last statement, I don't really consider myself to be going up against anybody. I'm doing this for the
Okay.
community. Day in, day out, I'm here for the community. That's where I started, and that's where I'll continue to be. And it really, for me right now, the way that we move our city forward, I believe that Springfield is really at a crossroads. There's a lot of energy in the city. And right now, we need to be thinking not about how we want the city to look in 1 or 2 years, but we need to be planning ahead the next 5, 10, 20, and 50 years about how we want this city to look. For me, Ward 4, Mason Square is the heart of Springfield. But for too long, we haven't been the priority. And for me, that's where it starts right there is making sure that we have a voice in City Hall, making sure that we are a priority. There are 5 candidates running for mayor right now, 21 running for city council at large. This is a historic race. We are currently living history. But at that same time, we have to ask ourselves, do we actually have representation in Ward 4? The fact that you could sit here and even need to ask that question in the first place should tell you the answer. No, we do not. For me, coming into this role is about making sure that we're fighting day in, day out. From the conversations I've had around the quality of life in the city, making sure that we're able to even get our streetlights fixed or our roads and sidewalks paved. Speeding on side streets, creating dangerous roadways that we can't even have our kids playing on. Making sure that our education system is at the top of its class, making sure that the people, that our students are able to find profitable career pathways or apprenticeships. You know, I went to college myself, but I didn't even know about the opportunities that were within the trades. Knowing that you could do a trade for one or two, do an apprenticeship for 1 or 2 years and come out easily making six figures. Yeah,
Absolutely.
had I known that back then, I might have made some different choices for myself. And also creating pathways to make sure that both home ownership and housing in the city are more affordable. Right now, we are in the midst of a housing crisis around the state, but also here in Springfield. We are 11,000 units short housing. The cost of renting, the cost of a mortgage are virtually the same, and people can't afford to pay that. There are a lot of ideas floating out there, but I come from a background of experience and data, and that's what I want to bring to the table is making sure that we are creating tangible and comprehensive solutions, both to the issues that we're dealing with, but also looking forward into how we can invest in ourselves and in our community.
Okay. So, is there a plan to take some of that from like the theoretical scope into the stage of practicality? Like, how do we do that? And
I've been doing this work, like I said, even
no,
before I
I'm
had.
not, no. It's not about you. I'm looking at Springfield. I'm looking at Ward Four. My kids live in Ward Four,
Right.
so it's kind of like as we talk about improving the quality of services. I'm sorry, in terms of how we take Ward Four and make it a place where people and families want to move to. How do we take everything you're saying now and put that into an actual plan?
Well, yeah, that's what I was. The point that I was going to make is that
Okay.
I've been doing this work without being in office, and the path that got me here, the successes I've had, have been contributing towards this plan. During the
Okay.
pandemic, I was able to write a grant along with ABVP that secured over 200,000 that went to Black-owned businesses in our community, as well as investing in internship stipends for Black and Brown students. For me, uh, a lot of the way that I speak, a lot of the issues that I focus on, is because either somebody close to me has dealt with that issue, or it's an issue that I experienced myself.
Okay.
Investing in our young people in this community, that's one of the highest priorities that we can do. Not only invested in their education in high school, but also making sure that they're able to get paid internships. As you said at the beginning, I started off in City Hall doing an internship that was unpaid. I had to work at the same time at Mercy as a transportation aide, bringing patients from their rooms to their procedures, which was one of my favorite jobs up until now. But I still had bills to pay. I had student loans to pay, and I was putting in total about 60 hours a week and still trying to contribute at home. Being able to afford to get that experience while making sure that you're able to take care of what you need to do. An internship stipend is one way to help with that. That's an example of a smaller thing, but on the bigger scale, we need to be focused on transformative investment in our community. Right now, PVPC as well as Wayfinders, for the past few months, they've been working on a 10-year plan for our community with a focus on Ward 4. A lot of the issues that I mentioned at the beginning around creating opportunities and pathways for home ownership, investing in local Black and Brown owned businesses in our community, creating more pathways for education, career pathways, and apprenticeships. Those are the primary focuses of of that plan, and that's based on community input.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll move. We have three other questions. Cool.
Sure thing.
Okay. Second one. Talk about how affordable. You mentioned you alluded to affordable housing and pathways to home ownership. I think you just expounded on that, didn't you?
No, no, I didn't.
Talk about
For
affordable
me,
housing and
brother,
pathways to home.
you already know I can get into the weeds on these issues right here. I love that question, but I just bought my first home right in Upper Hill, a 2-family home, um, and I bought it during the pandemic. As I said, I don't come from a political family. I don't come from a rich family. And even getting that down payment assistance together to be able to afford the house, it was a huge stretch. A lot of people come from even less. 2015 study done by the Boston Federal Reserve found that while white families have $247,000 in generational wealth, that's your homes, that's your savings accounts, all of that in investments. Black families in Massachusetts have $8. So really, for me, it really starts with focusing on ways that we can build that generational wealth by creating assistance programs, by creating pathways to get people into homes. Black people own homes at a rate of 36% compared to 63% for white households in Massachusetts. And
Unknown caller.
give me 1 second. And so within the past year, during the pandemic, as well as a result of ARPA, the state invested in mass housing, a program called the Mass Streams Program. That enabled people to access $50,000 in down payment assistance from their house. That is life-changing amounts of money in order to be able to afford a house. Springfield also has down payment assistance housing programs, as well as the housing lottery. But I don't feel that those programs are expansive enough and inclusive enough of our community. I feel that they're very limited and that we can be finding ways to both invest more into them, to expand them, to make sure that we are attracting more teachers as well as first responders to be able to afford housing. Right, that program is based on the poverty level for the area, median income and poverty levels for this area. But I do feel that that should be expanded to include people with moderate income levels in that 80 to 120% AMI range. Like I said, those are our teachers, those are our first responders, those are the people that are going to come and contribute towards our community. We need to make sure that they have places to live as well. We need to make sure that we're getting rid of slumlords in our community. As I said, I personally am a landlord, and I know how hard of a job it is to maintain a household. But at the same time, it's a privilege. Having people being able to live in a place you own, for me, it's a privilege, and I take that very seriously. So seeing buildings going up in fire because they're not taking care of the sprinkler system, or they're not making the necessary advancements that they need to upgrade their building and make it a safe place for people, but then consistently raising the rent prices, that's unacceptable. We need to make sure that we're creating protections for our tenants living in this community. We have a high renter base in this community, and we need to make sure that we are actively protecting them. During the pandemic, there were eviction protections, and that was what really it stopped an entire new factor of the housing crisis that we're already experiencing. We also have a high immigrant population right now, and people are having trouble accessing their work visa. So we have a lot of people that need housing that want to be able to work, but they can't, they're not able to because of our federal immigration system. And now, as a result, they're creating a large burden on our already strained housing system. There are no beds for homeless people in this state. Like I've had to help people in the past find beds, and you'd be lucky to even find one. And so those are all problems that we need to be making sure that we're creating comprehensive solutions around, that we're investing in both expanding opportunities as well as addressing major issues and concerns that would also save us money in the long run.
So as a city councilor, the primary role of a city councilor in the city of Springfield is zoning and ordinance changes. How do you impact that as a city councilor?
Yeah, so right now, during my time as a senior policy co-lead with the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, I was focused on creating pathways to home ownership. One of the things I was working with Andy Vargas on a comprehensive housing bill that would not only create more housing production, as I said, for low and moderate income individuals, but also making sure that we're changing zoning regulations. That right now out east, there is the MBTA community law, which stipulates the housing production for multifamily, there has to be a certain number of multifamily houses that are being built around transit nodes. So making sure that people that live close to trains, commuter rail out there, that we're able to get more people in those houses, and that we're keeping that at an affordable level.
Okay.
As well as allowing accessory dwelling units. That's your in-law apartments. That's being able to convert spaces that you have either on your property or on your house into additional units. That is something that should be allowed by right, by as a zoning by right policy for cities across the state. That would have a huge impact here in Springfield as well as around the state and creating more units. Additionally, there is currently a Springfield housing trust fund, but that hasn't been funded by the mayor, unfortunately, and so that is a major issue. That would be something I would push hard for in the next budget to make sure that we
Okay.
do have funding going towards it.
Okay. And I know City Councilor Tracy Whitfield has been fighting hard. It's made her unpopular amongst her colleagues around the table. As we talk about housing, I just remember when we had the influx of Somalians working in the mayor's office at that time, and just knowing how unsupportive the city council was. Would you be willing to stand out to actually support housing plans and helping the city come up with a housing plan as a city councilor, which actually goes beyond the scope of your duty? But so you're saying basically you're going to extend the scope of city council's work.
I'm glad you asked that question, brother. Yes, that is. As my current shirt says, unapologetically black and ambitious.
Okay.
My fiance Trisha made this shirt for me at a time where uh, I was feeling uncomfortable being in my own lane. I was told by supervisors or the powers that be that I had to stick to my own lane, and I lost sight and track of who I am as a person. I am unapologetically black and ambitious. I don't believe I have a lane. I do
Okay.
believe that we can expand as much as we set our sights on it and as much as we dream to. I believe that the city council has the potential to access new powers to make sure that we are working to create balances and checks within our city government. Um,
Right.
that's a deeper conversation for another time. But at the same time, I think that Tracy is a great example of somebody that really is standing 10 toes down on the community. And like her or not, you can't say that she doesn't keep it real, that she isn't about the work and that she isn't about the community. I think that we need more people like that are willing to fight. I consider myself to be a fighter, to go in, day out. I'm willing to also work with people on all sides. I've always been known as somebody that can work with people that I like or that I don't like, regardless, but keeping towards that professionalism. I think that's something that we currently have lost sight of within this current seat of how to
Okay.
make sure that we are working civilly. But additionally, I think that we really need to be looking at the city charter. I come from a Ways and Means background with congressman, and I do believe the legislature should have the right to appropriate funding. That would make a major difference within the city council. I think that that's not an easy task to take on. But at the same time, I do believe that is something that is necessary, regardless of who is elected to the mayoral seat. We need to have those checks and balances in play. I'm not a figurehead kind of person that I can only just speak on issues. I'm always looking for ways to create action following that.
Okay. All right. So how do we improve the quality of city services and attention to Ward 4?
Yeah, right now, as I said at the beginning, even getting our sidewalks and streets paved is a major issue compared to other communities. I go into Ward 7 and you have a street light out. I grew up like my parents after immigrating here, they bought a house in Ward 7, and I remember the street light went out. We called it within the next day or two. It was resolved. Over here, we've had streetlights that have been out for years that I've never even seen working. And I know that numerous reports from numerous people have been put in, but it isn't resolved. We talk about public safety and street safety, and having dark streets is not something that really alleviates that problem. We need to make sure that we're brightening up our streets and making sure that our walkways are safe. That people, we've had several major incidents around the city, both but including in Ward 4, regarding pedestrians being unfortunately hit by cars. That is something that we need to make sure that we are taking seriously. Additionally, I think that we need to make sure that we're improving our 311 service, updating that into the 21st century, um, making sure that when people do call, they're able to get an effective response and directed towards the proper department or administrative assistant without it being too much of an individual burden on the workers within 311. I also believe that we need to be investing in municipal fiber as a community, making sure that we are closing that uh, digital gap. A lot of people, when they think about lack of access to internet, they think of our rural communities out in Franklin and Berkshire counties, but in communities of color, that digital divide is a major contributor towards the inequities that we deal with. We really saw that come to a head during the pandemic when students that didn't have laptops at home or didn't have access to quality service at home were automatically put at a disadvantage in terms of receiving their education. That's something we need to be learning a lesson from and making sure that we are putting those investments to make sure that that is something that doesn't happen.
Okay. Let's see. Good question. Good answer. Good answer. Oh, let me stop for a second and shout out. We have a sponsor for this particular segment. I would like to thank Dr. Katrina Banks from Neurologic Optimal Wellness Physical Therapy, LLC. They say whether you had a fall, a car accident, suffer from back pain, have muscle weakness, or a movement disorder that has changed your life, they offer mobile and clinic services in which they are there to listen to your concerns, manage your symptoms, retrain your brain to restore movement, provide education on preventative measures of your problems, and help you in returning to do the things that you love to do. They have a strength training program, mobility training program, balance training, fall prevention program, and a whole lot more. Reach out to them. The number is on the ad below. You can always contact Dr. Banks' office by calling 413-318-4776. Thank you to our sponsor. I like sponsors. That gives us the resources that we need to continue providing this platform. So with that being said, thank you, everybody. Please support Neurologic Optical Wellness Physical Therapy. She also said to make sure I inform folks that you don't have to be in a car accident to seek out a physical therapist. There are so many different needs and concerns that we have in terms of maintaining our bodies, services that, physical therapists do provide. So please contact Dr. Banks. You have a problem, give them a call first. All right. So let's go to our next question. You ready? You ready, sir?
Yeah, before you ask
Yep.
that question, though, I do want to make sure that I am shouting out Dr. Banks as well for the work that she's been doing, both in the community and in her capacity with her wellness and physical therapy business. I think that another thing that I want to mention in terms of the quality of life that I would be remiss if I didn't call attention to is making sure that our seniors are able to age gracefully in their homes, that they have access to transportation, to wellness services like physical therapy, or in order to get transportation to their other appointments. Taking care of our senior citizens is a major priority of mine, and I want to make sure that that's set, as well as in terms of property taxes. That's something that we have right now as a contributor to our housing crisis as well. 8% of the houses that are being bought are bought by out-of-state investors. They're buying out properties from people and then forcing them, especially with seniors, and then trying to force them to rent at a higher price with the intention of kicking them out of their homes. We need to be protecting our seniors in their homes, as well as making sure that we are uh, not increasing property taxes, especially for our seniors, making sure that we're able to keep that affordable. We have an increase in utilities as well that we need to make sure that we are providing quality service, but it has to be affordable. First and foremost, right now, I think a lot of people are struggling with paying their bills and just to get by, and so we need to make sure that we're looking out for them.
And that would also include tax title foreclosures, which are also on the rise. Given that the administration has raised taxes for 8, maybe 9 consecutive years in a row.
9 consecutive years.
I'm sorry?
Not yet. You're right. 9 consecutive years.
9 consecutive years. And tax title is one of the things that we tend to overlook. And outside of Councilwoman Tracy Whitfield, no one else has even raised the issue of tax title foreclosure. So with some of the funding that we're receiving from the feds, some of those dollars could go to enhance our tax title program. And I hope that, should you be successful, that you would strongly take that into consideration as well in terms of taking on that battle for the residents of Springfield.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next question. Can you discuss your
Give
strategy?
me 1 second.
Yep.
Sorry about that. I just had somebody at the door, but I am back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you discuss your strategies to encourage partnerships between Black-owned businesses and local government, / changing the city's procurement processes for creating opportunities for young people with workforce development and apprenticeships? And also, I'm going to add to that, help to form a stronger alliance between the Office of Planning and Economic Development, which determines the city's economic outlook, and communities like those that reside in Ward 4.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, when we look at how our government works, both at the local, state, and federal levels, procurement is one of the most profitable, like one of the highest expenses that a government has. That means hiring local vendors and businesses to contract with the city, whether that's the towing services that the city uses, or when they contract out for building new buildings or creating resolving a roofing issue, or even providing office supplies to a city. Those are all things that they would contract out. And ideally, they would be hiring locally for that. At the same time, I think that as we look towards the future, we really need to revolutionize the way that system works. During my time as well at BECMA, I was working on inclusive procurement reform, revolutionizing the Chapter 30B rules and regulations to make that more accessible for Black, brown, and minority-owned businesses, as well as for veteran and women-owned businesses, making sure that we are actively keeping track of the system that we use to make sure that people know what opportunities are out there, but also that the government knows that these businesses that are out there that are willing to do the work. One of the most frequent issues that I've heard since forever, from the beginning of my career, has been that on the city side, it's been that we don't know these businesses. We're putting out these RFPs and nobody's putting bid out. At the same time, from our business owners, we're hearing that we are either applying for these bids and we're not getting them, or that we're not even hearing about them in the first place. We've all had discussions about the pay-to-play politics, but that is something that we need to make sure that we are creating equity in that space for. We need to make sure that we are also not encouraging, but ensuring that businesses, when they do secure contracts, that they are paid out on time. A lot of these contractors are responsible for paying their subcontractors and employees. And when you're waiting 90 days for a payment, how are you supposed to pay your employees in the meantime? How are you supposed to keep that workforce on board? As a member, additionally, of the Access, Inclusion, Diversity Committee, an appointee for the Holy Hope Soldiers Home reconstruction, another issue that I wanted to make sure I dealt with directly was the issue around project labor agreements. I'm huge on creating opportunities for apprenticeships as well as in labor unions. But at the same time, a lot of our Black, minority, women-owned, and veteran-owned businesses have been excluded from major public statewide construction projects, as well as local construction projects, because of how project labor agreements have been designed throughout the history of the state and in many other places around the country. A lot of times when a firm would bid for one of these contracts, they would be required to agree to a project labor agreement. That is the standards by which all the tasks are bid out, all the jobs are bid out, making sure that, like, just to give you guys like an example, like brief background of what a project labor agreement is, making sure that there's no strikes, or making sure that there is proper arbitration clauses, well, one clause that is included in project labor agreements is around using laborers from the union pool, not being
Right.
able to use your own core employees. I don't know about you, but when I work or owning a business, I want to work with the people that I've known, that I've hired, and that I have personal experience with. I was
Absolutely.
able to, for the first time in history, recommend certain policy recommendations and creating opportunities for minority women and veteran-owned businesses to retain their core employee workforce. I was also able to make sure that we were reaching, through my recommendations, that we were increasing the demand for apprenticeships and hiring locally for our our minority laborers and workforce, making sure that we are connecting in the community, making sure that we are reaching out. As I said before at the beginning of our conversation, a lot of people don't know about the apprenticeship opportunities that are out there. And how lucrative that they can be. At the same time, I have spoken with labor groups around the state, and they are actively trying to get more people to be a part of the unions. These are good paying jobs. When we
We,
look at
but are they? Let me not. This is where I have to jump in. Typically, I don't challenge, but sometimes I do.
no,
I
I get it.
know trying to work with the unions a while back. Denise Jordan and myself, we were working with the unions. We came to meetings, had community based meetings. Um, it's interesting. We were having meetings around the city. We recruited a number of young Black and Latino men, women, and everything started out fine.
Mhm.
But once our part of the process was over, people were running into a long series of obstacles. So I just don't want to give people the impression that unions are actively working to find, secure, and retain Black. Again, my focus is primarily on Black people. So they have not been active in that, and they have been consistent. And once the city part is out, or once the activist part is out, they go back to a long series of roadblocks and obstacles, and I think it's going to require further conversation with union reps, because I hear what you're saying, and a part of me says, yeah, on paper that's what they say, but in terms of practicality, that's not happening. And I just don't. I want to make sure that anyone watching understands that it's not that easy. The unions are not. Otherwise, we would not have the problem of city councilors checking off and signing off on procurement contracts, knowing that they haven't worked with a single Black or Latino business in years. So I just want to throw that out there.
No, I definitely appreciate that. And yeah, it can't go without saying that there is a long history from the onset of unions of racism,
Right.
especially towards the Black community. And so that's something that definitely isn't lost on me.
Okay. I just want to throw that out there.
I appreciate it.
Now I interrupted your thought. Were you done with that particular question, or?
Yeah, I completely lost my place on that one.
I'm sorry.
Now you're good.
There's
You're good.
there's certain
That's
topics
a
that you're
valid
saying.
point
I'm
to
like,
bring up.
yeah, I'm loving everything you're saying. I'm like, okay, this sounds really great. As long as there's an action plan behind everything you're saying, this is awesome. But there's certain things that trigger me. It's the activist in me that says, "Oh, hold up, no, 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 we fought that battle, and that's not how the story, how the narrative went." So that's all. Um, Another
No,
question, Kareem.
that's the balance that we constantly face in government is making sure that we are working towards progress, but we can't lose sight of the history. We can't lose sight of the negatives that are presently occurring or that have historically happened. When we talk about historically underrepresented and underserved, these are the issues that we're talking about. That like brings it to real life focus. Having access to a profitable job without being within certain communities or demographics, that is an issue that we deal with in this city.
Absolutely. I'm just going to throw it out there. There's a lot of bias. Racism still exists. And, we're dealing with the same obstacles. We're still dealing with the shadow of everything we've been dealing with back in my day. So I feel for young people, which leads me to my next question. Can you address the current wave of violence in Springfield? We've lost a number of young people over the last couple of weeks. Some folks, we had a conversation the other day with city councilors, Justin Hurst, Tracy Whitfield, Donnie Wright, a community organizer, activist. and even some of the folks on the sidelines were chiming in. It was a live conversation. People were addressing it as if this is something new. Whereas typically, if you follow the trend in Springfield historically, every year around this time we have a binge of murders. By October, November, December, we run into it again. So this is nothing new. Can you address the wave of violence that hits us? And do you have an action plan or a thought on how you can use your position as a city councilor to address the violence?
Yeah, first and foremost, like it does break my heart and my prayers to go out to the families, all the mothers that have lost sons, all the community members that have lost friends and brothers. Um, but at the same time, when we can't allow our elected officials to only rely on thoughts and prayers. That is unacceptable right now. The U.S. is the only country, the only developed country on this planet that is dealing with this issue. There are common sense and comprehensive legislative reforms that can be implemented to both address the problems as it is around making sure that we are taking illegal and unregistered firearms off the street. But additionally, for me, this really starts at the roots. We have to be working as a community to make sure that we are addressing the root causes, that we are addressing how we're working together, that we're working together to kind of police our own communities at the end of the day. When we call the police, that's after a crime has happened.
Right.
There are plenty of opportunities for us to intervene before that. And at the same time, I really want to make sure that we're bringing it back to the economic and education issues. I believe that a lot of crime can be directly tied to that based on the data and based on lived experiences of people in this community. When you're addressing those issues, it does impact the crime levels. There's a direct correlation to that. At the
Absolutely.
same time, there are several pieces of major legislation at the State House right now in this session of Beacon Hill around creating gun reform legislation, as well as AG Campbell introducing legislation around ghost guns, making sure that those are guns that aren't able to be traced, that can be 3D printed at home, or pieces that can modify a gun, like a switch on the back of a gun to turn a semi-automatic pistol into a fully automatic pistol. Those are things that can be 3D printed at home and don't have, like, they are loopholes right now around registration that can actually, for example, if the police are aware of a house that is printing 3D guns, there are the way that the rules work sometimes that they can know that they can get a warrant, go into the house, but then they won't be able to actually formally charge them because of the way that these loopholes allow these bad actors to kind of carry on. So we need to make sure that we are closing those loopholes. We need to make sure. I spoke with the AG last month during her open house when she came down to Springfield. And as I said, there's state house legislation, and at the same time, there are people within I'll just directly say it, our current city councilor in Ward 4 directly said that no one knows what we can do about gun violence. There are comprehensive legislative reforms. We do know what the issue is. At the same time, somebody that touts their experience at the state house that still isn't with the program and doesn't know about that being one of the major issues that the House is trying to deal with this session, that is very problematic for me. And I don't feel that that is an accurate representation of where we're at as a community, or it doesn't represent our needs going forward. And that is another major reason that I am running for this office.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else you would like to add before we conclude this conversation?
Yeah, I really want to make sure that all in all, like throughout this conversation, I've highlighted the importance of addressing these issues from a data and evidence-based perspective, making sure that we are addressing the root causes. And I've highlighted several ways that in which we can do that. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm re-emphasizing that none of it works without community. At the end of the day, this really is on us to make sure that we are advocating for each other, to make sure that we are supporting each other, and to make sure that we are checking each other when we need to. I really do think that we have so much potential in this community that we can tap into. And I want to make sure that I'm helping lead that charge forward. I want to be part of this next era of excellence here in Springfield. And it starts here. It starts today. I would encourage everybody to please visit my website, voteabdulkareem.com. That's VOTEABDULKAREEM.com. That's my tag on all socials as well, Facebook as well as my Gmail. So please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if you'd like to talk deeper about these issues. I really want to make sure that I'm tapping into all communities throughout throughout Ward 4. I want to make sure that I am tapping in with our immigrant communities because I would be remiss being from Tanzania myself if I wasn't giving power to those voices. I want to make sure that I am tapping in with our Latino communities as well, which is an increasing demographic here in this district. Ultimately, the goal is to unify and to build. We shouldn't be fighting over the same piece of the pie. We should be finding ways to access the whole pie. I believe that the people closest to the problems should be closest to the power. Thank you.
All right. Well, we appreciate Kareem Kibodya's time. His willingness to share his plans for a better Springfield is through the efforts of passionate individuals like him that our city can thrive and grow. As residents, we have an important role to play in supporting candidates who prioritize community, welfare, and progress. And again, I want to say thank you, Kareem, for your insight, and to our audience for joining us in this enlightening conversation. Let's all work together to build the Springfield that we envision, one that's prosperous, inclusive, and united. Kareem, thank you so much for your time. Good luck in September. You have a primary?
Because it's just two of us, we go straight to November in the general election.
November.
I have a primary, but I would still encourage everybody to make sure that you are registering to vote and that you are voting for the primary. As I said, there are a lot of dope, talented people running for office at this time, and your voice does matter and it does count.
There it is. All right, with that being said, this is Live with D Moss. We want to thank everybody for watching. If you have any comments, please hit the comments. If you enjoy what you're watching, click the like button. If you'd like to get involved in Mr. Kibodya's campaign, follow his website. Give the website one more time.
VoteAbdulKareem.com.
Okay. And with that being said,
Facebook, Vote Abdul Kareem.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Vote Abdul Kareem on Facebook and on my website, as well as my Gmail and my ActBlue account if you'd like to donate to the campaign as well. One of the lessons I've learned on this campaign is that it really is the people that help propel us forward.
At the end of the day, the Black Panthers say all power to the people, because the
Yes,
power is
sir.
in the hands of the people. With that being said, all right, I want to say thank you and have a wonderful day.